Hello, 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 everybody. Another week, another guest, another pair of beautiful men to occupy your virtual inner space with. I'm Riley McShane, host of the Metal Blade Live Series podcast and singer for the Metal Blade band Allegiant, joined this week by Dean Lamb of Archspire. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing more or less fine. Just generally fine. Everything is fine. Nothing's wrong. I don't have any like grievous injuries or cuts or wounds or anything. So as far as that goes, I didn't have to run for my life today. Everything's going pretty well.
That's good. Is that?
Yeah.
I feel like I've heard that from multiple Canadians that, like, you know, when you leave your house any given day of the week, you might have to run for your life for one reason or another.
Well, I don't know if you know this, but right now crows are very in our neighborhood are very not just. I mean, obviously you don't know about the crows in our neighborhood, but crows. I don't know if I want to go too much into crows. I like crows a lot, but they are very protective of their young. So they swoop down and they go for like 3 weeks of the year. I'll shut up. That makes me sound crazy. Let's restart. Let's restart.
All right,
you're Riley.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. No, I actually do want to know about. I do want to know about the crows because I always get crows and ravens.
Patronize.
I always get
you
crows.
Don't want to hear about it.
Crows and ravens mixed up.
Really,
ravens are the big ones, right? Like crows are kind of the small ones, smaller ones.
Yeah, ravens are the big ones. Yeah,
ravens are the big ones.
Yeah,
okay.
They're the big ones.
I feel like
Any
that would
other
be
questions?
a little more. Nope. Podcast over.
Okay,
We're done. All right. Ravens are the big ones. This was Dean Lamb's. See ya.
All right, great. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be more terrifying with giant ravens swooping down on you. But
yeah, and the thing is, as we're on the subject of crows, since you brought up crows, not me. I did see one time. I was like just walking in my neighborhood like 2 years ago, and I saw this guy on his phone, and he had like headphones on, right? Big headphones, big, goofy, dumb headphones like mine. Look at how stupid these are. Like, what was I thinking? But anyway, he had like these kinds of things, and he was just on his phone. And there was a crow right behind him going, constantly diving at his head. But he had no idea because he wasn't. So he's just like, so I'm just watching this guy, like this is just absolutely just like getting bombed by this crow. It was great.
Did you ever think that maybe he was a druid and the crow was his familiar? Could have been.
I didn't think that. But now that you bring that up, that's total nonsense. So no, I was definitely no. There's not a lot of druids here. I wish the druid community is pretty small. So.
I feel like it would be easy to be optimistic living in Canada because when you have to run for your life, often every day is a gift.
and we thank our Lord, our dear Lord, today for that gift.
Yes, absolutely. So, I guess you're in a band called Archspire, a technical death metal band from Vancouver, Canada.
That's true.
What are you guys doing? How's I know you guys posted some picture with you guys in a hot tub with a bunch of guns. It was a good photo, but it seems celebratory of a recording session being finished. How's that new album shaping up? What's the plans?
Well, the new album it turned out, in my opinion, and I think all of our opinions, quite well. The process was pretty similar as to the last time we were with Dave Otero over in Denver, Colorado, or just outside of Denver at Flatline Audio. And he's great to work with, and we have this like awesome kind of chemistry, and we kind of knew what we were going into this time because the last album we did with him in 2016, we recorded Relentless Mutation. And that one was like a really new experience because we'd never done a retreat style recording session. And so you go in there, and at the time, and I know that you can attest to this because you were there at some point, many points, recently in the last few years, that the internet, the Wi-Fi there is very bad.
Is really bad.
Very, very bad. Yeah. So you play a lot of board games. I'm not too much of a drinker, but generally the guys in my band drink to blackout. That's what it is. Blackout. Yeah, blackout.
Yeah.
So you'll just have like endless time to spend on the album, and he doesn't generally work on Saturdays or Sundays. Sometimes he'll do a Saturday, but almost never do a Sunday.
Right.
So the first time we were there, our van's insurance ran out while we were there, so we couldn't leave, and so we were just there. We would walk back and forth to Walmart. Okay, every couple days to get groceries or whatever. It was a hellish existence. We called it music prison. So that was 2016. So flash forward to recording in the middle of a worldwide pandemic in 2020, things didn't get any better, and neither did the Wi-Fi. So and we were there for longer. So we were there for longer, less freedom, Wi-Fi just as bad, and all you had to do was just focus on the album. And the thing about this album is that we had already written 95% of it. The album before, we still had stuff to work on, but this one, we were pretty much done. So it went really well. It was great. It was super fun. Every day was super fun. No, it was just
every day was a gift.
Yeah. No, it was very like you were laser focused while you were there. And when you weren't, you were just trying to watch choppy YouTube footage of Key and Peele. You're like, please buffer, please. I can, please.
You know, I ended up caving and getting so that Walmart's right down the street. And as you know, you can buy anything at Walmart. And well, not anything, like you can't buy people, but you can buy their mood at Walmart. That's you know. But you can buy almost anything at Walmart. And so I just went and I got an Ethernet cable. And,
why didn't I think of that?
Yeah, and I ran it from the router and was just like, you know what, I'm hard wiring into this. And it wasn't a whole lot better because that router is actually like a range extender type of thing. But it did help. Unfortunately, I thought of that after we tried to do this the first time while I was out there, and it was a miserable failure because of the excellent Wi-Fi.
No, it was a nice chat that we had, not on air. It was nice.
It was. I mean, it's always good talking to you, but you know, the endeavor was a miserable failure. Kind of like how this one is going right now.
Ethernet cable is a good idea, though, dude. But yeah, you're right. It was just a as a router extender or whatever. So it wouldn't have worked super well. But yeah, the recording, all jokes aside, it went really well. And like I said, we have just like such a great rapport with Dave that he'll, you know, you have tons of guitars everywhere, and so he'll just be like, sitting there, and you know that you're sitting there, and he's listening to this part that you just tracked. Excuse me, and he'll sit there and not say anything for a few seconds. Yeah, and you're like, and then I was like, let me see your guitar, and then he like writes a harmony. Yeah, he'll pick up your guitar and play it back, and he'll write a harmony, and it'll be something that myself or Toby or Jared would never have thought of, and we're like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. And so it was a lot of stuff like that. With, I mean, when you're playing 300, 350, 400 eighth note BPM songs, there's not really a lot of room to add because everything is so densely compacted. Everything is already filled out for the most part. So you can add some small things or whatever. And not to mention, it takes a long time to record that many notes, right? Just takes double the amount of time to edit, to comp, to render, all that stuff. Everything just takes time. So for him to add small things like that, it's just like you listen to it from one perspective. For us, I mean, we've been writing this album since 2017, before I got married, which is pretty crazy. So it was 2.5 years, almost 3 years of writing before we went into the studio. And for us, we write slow, but this was like another level of slow. Like this was like, man, I look back at the other albums we wrote. Oh, we wrote that in 8 months. Like what? 8 months? How did we even do that? But so yeah, this one, it was just amazing to have somebody else's perspective in there, and we already just had a great rapport with him. So I think it turned out quite well, and I think we're all pretty happy with the finished product. I just need people to hear it.
Yeah. But, well, soon. I'm sure. Soon. You know, that's generally how it goes. You start releasing singles. I'm excited to hear them as well. I didn't ask Dave while we were out there, like, hey, let me hear some of that new Archspire, which is something that I normally would do. But I was also in like laser focus mode, and
you're busy. Yeah,
I just kind of forgot. So I'm now in the boat with all the rest of the world, just waiting with bated breath to hear the songs. I'm gonna bring it back to something that you said though about Dave. So we've had quite a few Dave clients on this show, right?
Oh, okay, right, yeah.
And there is something that I have said many times that I will say again is that Dave is such a fantastic engineer because he's also a really good musician and like a really good producer.
Agreed.
And so he'll do those things that you were mentioning, where he'll just like sit there and think about it for a second and then pick up your guitar or sit on your drums or like take your bass or, create a little vocal mock-up line for you where he's just writing harmonies and patterns and doing all kinds of cool stuff. And so I feel that's what really separates a lot of Dave Otero TM releases from a lot of other bands is that there's like that special sauce in there that he kind of just like splashes, with his fantastic
you're right.
musicianship.
And if anybody who's watching this is a musician, which I imagine plenty of you are, if you work with an engineer, if you work with someone who just tracks the album, you go into a studio and they say, okay, what's the riff, and you play it, and they're like, okay, cool, so let's track it, get a better take or whatever. Those people can shape the sound of an album, but a producer is someone that goes in and they say, is that riff good, or can we make that riff better, or for instance, Dave had specifically one song of ours that he was like, okay, this one, I have an idea for it. I was up all night thinking about this. Like, maybe if we take out this whole section, this whole 30-second long section, I think it's going to give a better flow to the song. And it's something that none of us had ever even considered. And so when you go in, you have to be open-minded, because if you're not, you're going to be sacrificing the final quality of the product, because, like it or not, if you write the music, as soon as you release it, it belongs to whoever is listening to it. Then
100%.
it's in their ears. They interpret it however they want. And so the more filters that are honest and constructive and helpful and I mean generally like polite and easy to work with, the more filters, aka people that hear it before you record it for real, render it and put it out there, the better the end product is going to be. And Dave is like one of the best filters that you can add, at least for extreme metal. Like, I mean, I know that he works on plenty of different genres within metal, but for us, like, he just gets our sound and he's like, that needs a pick slide. And then we go, no, that's terrible. And then we just stop listening to him after that. But before the pick slide suggestion, that we're all ears until he's like, let's put a wah pedal in here. And we're like, Toby's like, I'm going to leave.
He has recorded a pick slide on every Allegiant album.
Right. Yeah.
That's our thing, is that he's like, what if we put a pick slide here? And usually we're like, what if you quit your job?
Right.
No, every time we do cave at least once every time, and we're like, okay, but you have to record it.
You get him to do it.
We make him do it. We make him.
Okay.
We make him. Yes. Not only does he track it, but he performs the pick slide.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's great.
So he has tracked a pick slide on every Allegiant release except for the one album that he didn't do in 2012. But we don't talk about that one.
Let's not talk about that one.
Yeah. That's not the good one.
It doesn't exist.
So I have to, one more thing about your recording session that Dave did show us before I move on to another topic. I know you guys are buds with the Inferi boys, right? You guys did a tech trek together.
Buds. Yes. Yeah, we did 2 tech treks with them. We did a US one, and then we just did more recently at the end of 2019. We did a European tech trek with them.
Fantastic gentlemen. We also did a US tour with them. Love those guys. Mm-hmm. But I saw that they may have iced you guys in a small way. For those of you watching who don't know what being iced is, an ice, when you get iced, it's when someone hides a Smirnoff Ice from you or a similar beverage, and you come across it by happenstance, and when you do, you have to drink the whole thing. Because they're relatively easy drinks to drink. So getting iced is often a thing that people will do to each other on tour. You hide a Smirnoff Ice somewhere in someone's bunk or in their van or something like that. Just for laughs.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway,
so the keyword there is a ice. You hide a ice,
just one
or similar beverage.
Yeah.
So what they had done, because they were in the studio before us, They had gone to every liquor store in the area and bought every single Smirnoff Ice that they could possibly find, and they spent about $600 or $700 on Smirnoff Ice. And they filled every single possible hiding spot in the entire suite with Smirnoff Ice. It was like unreal. And when we were getting picked up from the airport by by Dave and his girlfriend Chelsea, the drive there was weird, dude, because I was like, they were like communicating via text before and then during, and then Chelsea was like, I don't remember the code to the suite, and so we're like, that's kind of, you fucking live here, like, what are you talking about, like. But it's because they needed all of us to get to the apartment right at the same time.
Right.
And for anybody who doesn't know, most people probably don't. You basically live in the suite behind the studio while you're there.
Yes.
So we open it up and we get in, and I think that there was like a couple kind of visible ones, and we're like, oh, that's pretty funny. And then we open up the fridge. I wasn't standing there, but Spencer or Ollie or something opened up the fridge, and I like just hear behind me just just super loud, like laughing and hooting and hollering, some kind of raucous laughter. And I go, there's just, the fridge is jam packed full of Smirnoff Ice of different sizes. Some of the big, like almost like Old English 40 size, whatever those are, and then like the regular bottles, they're jammed in the fridge. Every drawer in the freezer, it's full. Every single cupboard in the kitchen is full. Everything in the bathroom, the shower has them in. The shower's full of Smirnoff Ice. Every cupboard in the bathroom, every single bedroom, under all the sheets. I mean, I can't explain to you how gross those beverages are too, because like once you have one, you're like, okay, and you have another one, you're like, what am I doing? And then you get a headache, and they're terrible.
They're really
and so
bad.
then you just have hundreds and hundreds just lying around.
Yeah,
and you're bored. So it's like,
to give you guys some context, when the story was being told to me, and he showed me a little video, I guess along with the Smirnoff Ices, they planted a GoPro camera in the fridge as well to catch a real-time reaction. But he was showing us this video, and I was like, oh my God, that's insane. And he was like, yeah, you know how much you guys have been drinking? And I was like, oh yeah, because you're right. There's nothing to do there except for
nothing to do.
Blackout, occasionally brownout, but mostly blackout. And he was like, yeah, so after a month of those guys being here, drinking heavily as you do in the studio, he was like, I still had like over 100 of these things left. I've been trying to give them away. And like,
oh my God.
I gave them like to the cleaning lady for the apartment. Like I gave them to friends. I gave them to and I still think I have like a dozen or so.
It was kind of creepy because that feeling of being like violated, where someone is like in your space and you didn't know that they were there. When you open up a cupboard after 3 weeks of being in the studio and there's a Smirnoff Ice in there that you didn't know, you're like, oh, like they were here too. Like it's like violating.
It was there. It was there all along. I feel like it has to have some kind of like uncanny valley vibe going on, right? Where
weird,
it's like,
dude. Yeah.
It looks like a fridge, but it's actually just 200 Smirnoff Ices.
Well, yeah, and also on top of that, in the shower they posted Spotify daily listens, and they said it was the Archspire daily listens and the Inferi daily listens, and Archspire's up here, up at the closer to the top, and Inferi's at the bottom. And there was one day where Inferi peaked over ours by 1 day, and they printed that out and they put it in the shower. And they circled it, and so I was just like, also they printed out framed pictures of themselves. They printed out pictures of themselves and framed them all over the apartment. So it was framed pictures of them that you were staring at, and I was like, why don't we just take these down? Like, I'm sick of looking at Malcolm every single day when I wake up. That's not true. I love Malcolm, but
that's
the other
incredible.
Guys.
Well, as you guys can tell, the Dave Otero studio experience is a magical one.
Right.
Yes, for every band involved, and there's even some strange, disturbing, violating, uncanny valley overlap at times. Well, moving on.
All right, great.
So you are a YouTube influencer at this point, I would say.
Okay, cool.
It's pretty cool, man. It's like, there's been a lot of people, right? A lot of people who, whether it was at the start of the pandemic when everybody got trapped inside, or even before then, a lot of people have tried to make YouTube channels or Twitch channels and stream and do all this stuff, and a very small handful of people really find something that like they can get their stride with and like have it take off and have it become something that is like special and can really like influence other people, and
Right.
Hence the word influencer. And I feel like you have managed to do that, and that is super fucking cool. So let's talk about your YouTube channel and your 4 Levels of Death Metal series real quick. So yeah, just give us a little insight to your journey as a YouTube creator. What kind of led to it? And then like, obviously the fun parts, what's the fun part in learning all the different songs from the people who wrote them? Have you had any extra hard riffs? Also, confirm something for me, because I'm gonna admit I don't play guitar. I've only watched a couple episodes. I'm not super well versed in it. The 4 levels, right? They are beginner, intermediate, advanced, and Spawn of Possession, right? That's what they are. That's what they.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. For the narrative of this question, yes. Let's go with that. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. Generally, very hard at the very, very end. Yeah. I mean, like it really started because I wanted a way to keep myself accountable for practicing. And so I know that when I would go to a music store and I would plug in a guitar, I worked at music stores, and I taught at a music store for 4 years. So when I'll be on my break, I would pull out my guitar, go downstairs, and just like hang out with the guys down there and just play guitar. And I just love playing in front of people. Like I get like an energy if I know that somebody's listening to my guitar playing, and I don't suck at guitar. Like I'm pretty good at guitar. I'm not like maybe where I would love to be, but like I'm pretty good at guitar. So if I sit down somewhere and I'm at a music store, then I can play something. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm kind of getting a cool energy. Maybe sometimes people come up and talk to me, which is nice. So I was like, what if I can turn that into something, not only that I can push myself to learn things that I would never do otherwise, like learn an insanely difficult solo section from Obscura. It's like, well, I'm probably not going to play that live anytime soon. So for me, that draw of like learning something insanely hard for an hour and a half has slowly dissipated through my 20s and into my 30s. If I'm sitting at home, I'm probably not like, I'm going to challenge myself and just make myself sweat on guitar by learning something I'll never play live and only play once fully. Like, I'm probably not going to do that.
Right.
And that's fine. That's just where I am with my playing. But if I can film it and get people involved and just get some energy back from the audience or whatever, that might be something really fun. So I started doing that with really intensely hard sections from Guthrie Govan, like I said, Obscura, some Wes Hauck stuff, some Necrophagia stuff. And I would do these long form videos where I wouldn't edit them. And it was just me learning it for an hour and a half. And I got some comments around Vancouver when I would go to shows. People were like, hey, I just watched you learn Necrophagia solo, Ignominious and Pale or whatever. I'm like, oh, sweet, thanks. And then my wife, Claire, who also has a YouTube channel, and also a guitarist, also a Kiesel artist as well, plays in a band called The Hallowed Catharsis in Vancouver. She was like, we should do a video together. And I was like, nah, that's a stupid idea. That's dumb. No. I was like, no, nobody's going to want to watch that. And she's like, no, we really should. I was like, no, we're both going to be learning something at the same time. The notes are going to clash. Nobody's going to want to watch it. I don't know. And she's like, okay, why don't you just show me some Archspire riffs? We'll film it. I'll edit it. And we'll just put it out there and see what happens. I was like, okay. And I'm kind of stubborn, but I fucking did it anyway. So, and we got some good comments. And I was like, that was a good idea. And then slowly after like 30, 40, 50 episodes or whatever of her and I doing stuff together, trying out different formats, we realized that having a guest on and then talking to each other and then learning 4 independent levels of more increasingly difficult things together, and then playing them and upping the production value of our set here. So camera wise, audio wise, all that kind of stuff. And all that stuff was really fun and really exciting and fulfilling for me, for both of us. And we learned how to be better on camera, which is a skill that you just need to put in hundreds of hours to get. Some people are just more comfortable off the bat with themselves. For me, I remember 2 or 3 years ago, I was trying to film some instructional stuff and I couldn't say a single word without being like flubbing it or whatever. Yeah. But slowly I started getting better. and the production started getting better. And now we're doing it, every couple weeks because the episodes keep getting longer and more involved, and I keep adding stuff. But man, the whole process has been super fulfilling, and I really enjoy it. And so yeah, I'm just glad people are into it, and it's just something that her and I have loved to do during the pandemic. But honestly, now that things are kind of back opening up for the most part, at least in North America, Western, other countries, it's like I'm still gonna do it. We still both love doing it, and we look forward to it. So it's just fun.
That's in my opinion, probably the most magical thing to come out of this whole pandemic is people discovering things that they probably otherwise wouldn't have started doing.
Right.
And now having it just be this like integral part of their life and of their like, like this is how I get my weekly major serotonin boost is by like doing this fun thing that I love doing that I probably would have never started doing had the world not come to a halt. So that is awesome to hear. And if you're watching not from his YouTube channel and from some of the Metal Blade properties, definitely check out Dean Lamb on YouTube. Watch his 4 levels of death metal series. It is
thank you.
Very, very, very entertaining.
I think we have a new episode coming out tomorrow with Ola England.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
So we had him and his wife Louise on the show. It was very fun.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So guitar. Let's talk about guitar. I did tell people in my Instagram post that we were going to talk about playing guitars and lifting cars. So I guess first question: have you ever tried to lift a car?
One time, I developed superhuman strength, and I lifted a car by myself, and I flipped it across the road. It was sort of like this adrenaline kind of moment, and I was no, I've never lifted a car. I don't really lift anything. The heaviest thing I lifted lately is this new guitar that I got that has, and I have one of them right here. It has some weights to offset the headstock because the headstock is so big.
Right.
And so this is 1.2 pounds. So I don't want to brag or anything, but I'm pretty easily lifting this.
Yeah.
So as you can see, like I said, I don't want to brag or anything, but it's not, it's like nothing to me essentially.
Well, that is pretty arrogant. I'm just going to call you out on that, but
All right.
I've never lifted a car individually, but I did help a group of people lift a car.
Okay.
While we were on tour in Europe, I'm not going to say which bands we were with because I don't want to throw anybody under the proverbial bus. Not the actual bus, but the proverbial one. But
I gotcha.
Yeah, someone had parked a car in a city in Spain where the bus was cordoned off to be parked. There were like cones and tape and everything, and someone just like rolled up behind all that and parked right in the middle.
Yeah.
So the whole tour package got together and lifted their car and moved it across the street.
Wow.
It was magical.
It easy?
No, it was very difficult.
Even with that many people?
Even with I think there was like 18, 20 guys on it, but it's just at that point it's like the dispersion of weight, right, is maybe like 200 pounds per person, so it's not super heavy. But cars are not designed to be lifted, so there's not a whole lot of like grabbing on points, and like it's kind of awkward. So
that's what I imagine would be the toughest thing, because just even getting that many people around a car with everybody's little tiny or at least I have little tiny hands, so my little tiny fingers underneath of the car, that would be tough. The weight for me, 200 pounds. I mean, like that's for me. That's I don't want to brag or anything, but this is where you're supposed to talk, so I don't have to keep talking.
It's okay. I mean, 200 pounds is doable. Don't be a coward, Dean. Don't be.
1.2 pounds. That's what I can lift. That's my max. 1.2 pounds.
Apparently, I'm getting. So I get notes from my. I have a team of moderators who watch the chats and feed questions and stuff. And apparently, people keep asking.
Who's bragging?
I know, right? My team of moderators. You like how that sounds? Rolls off the tongue real nice.
I do actually.
But people keep asking about the 4 levels with Ola. So.
Yeah,
that's it's good to know that there's interest floating around. Yeah.
It was very fun. The relationship that they have together, him and his wife Louise, is very cute, and my wife and I really enjoy watching their videos too. So. I was like, we need to have Louise on the show because she's great. Like, you're fine, you're mostly, but she's great. So we had them work together on picking riffs and stuff. And yeah, I mean, like, that guy is just, he's like a content machine. He just like pumps out, I don't even know, 3 or 4 videos a week. Like I mean, I'm sure he must have a team. You know what I mean? Like because I edit all of our videos, all the ones on my channel. So I'll film and edit them, and editing has gone from a very long process to make a shitty video to a very long process to make a slightly less shitty video. Yeah. And now it's like, you know, when you turn off the camera after filming an hour and a half or whatever, it's like starting a process of 15 or 20 hours per video of editing. It's like, and everyone just gets a little bit more involved. So, but I'm just glad people are into the show. You know, we've had some amazing guests. We have Devin Townsend on there a month or 2 ago. That was a really amazing thing for me. We had Matt Heafy on. We had Dave Davidson from Revocation. We had Brody from Rivers of Nile. We had Josh Middleton from Silosis. Yeah, just like some amazing people. So
wow,
cool.
I love how you just listed off all those people and didn't mention my band. That's really cool of you.
I want an Allegiant one, and I think Mikey's working on it.
They are working on it.
Okay, great. Okay, yeah. Well, there you go. Yeah. Now they need to do it because it's out here on the internet.
It is. It's been confirmed. Soft confirmation right there.
Great. All right,
I have to mention that, you know, I know that feeling. I do tons of video editing for pretty much every project I'm a part of, whether it's my video game company or Allegiant or really anyone. I do most of the video editing, and just recently, a bunch of people were like, "Hey, dude, you should do like a cooking thing, like a thing." And I was like, "Yeah, dude, no problem." And then someone brought it to my attention that Mr. Oliver Peters of Archspire also does a cooking thing. So now I feel like there's only, you know, we're a fork in the road, right? A little juncture where we're either going to have to like collab on a really cool cooking thing, or fight to the death, like Iron Chef, like like, you know, like, and have, you know, a team of judges, you know, maybe get I can't remember his name, Santos, the guy who runs Blacklight Media, the like famous chef, have him. He can judge it. And then, you know, Ollie will win because this, you know, from what I've been told, he actually has like real kitchen experience, and I just like cooking.
Well, that's the thing about Ollie is that he's a grower, not a shower, with his cooking skills. His cooking skills, not his penis, but his penis is weird. But his cooking skills, it's the image of his penis is seared into my brain. By the way, just many tours where I'll just be like, I'll close my eyes one day, I'll be like, oh God, right, I've seen that so many times. Yeah, it's like, oh, I could see like the movement of it. It's like, anyway. So from afar, the cooking skills that he has were like, I mean, he's like a legit great chef. Like, he's not a cook. I'm not saying anything comparison wise. I'm just saying, if you were to say, hey, could he come up with something out of nowhere with no recipe and just make this amazing meal with whatever he had in the kitchen? It's like, yes, he can do that, and he can make it look fancy and make it taste amazing. So, and that's from years and years of experience in kitchens. And he's been, him and his family, you know, his brothers are like that too. But yeah, he and I started doing that show called Good Morning Handsome, and we basically went to the kitchen and we filmed a full episode, and it took me about a year to edit it because I keep forgetting about it, and I came back to it, and then eventually I'm like, okay, let's just fucking put it out. I'm gonna finish it, right? But we named it after the mug that we found in the kitchen when we were filming it because we had no name for it when we walked in. We were like, oh, that's great. And then we did a few short episodes. There's 5 short ones up on the YouTube channel. And he does some quick cooking, kind of chefery kind of tips, how to fancy out something, how to make a pineapple look, whatever. They're just like dumb, short little guys. So if anybody's interested in that, please go check those out. Good Morning Handsome.
Yes.
We want to film more, but lots of stuff happened. We were going to do it at the kitchen, but then there were some problems, and then we're going to do it at his place, but there were some problems. So we're going to get back to it. But I mean, man, filming that dude cook is super fun. It's very fun, and he just like is like real fast on camera. I don't know where he learned that. I don't know. It's just he's confident, and he has the skills to back it up. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I watched his episode after someone was like, "Oh, he did one," and I watched it and was just like, "Well, I should probably stop doing these because this is really good."
No, please. We need more of it. We need more content like that.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I concur. So getting back to playing guitar now that we've talked about lifting cars.
Ugh, guitar.
So are you a self-taught guitar player? What are your guitar, or who, I guess I should say, are your guitar inspirations? What would you suggest to aspiring guitar players? It's a question we like to ask a lot of our musical guests. What resources are out there that you think could be useful to people, or what have been useful to you in the past?
Right. Yeah. I mean, like I grew up in, so I'm 33. So I grew up, I started playing in the year 2000, essentially. I started playing guitar when I was like 12 or 13 or whatever.
Right.
And so right then was like the beginning of internet resources for guitar. So I used Power Tab. I think it might've been before Guitar Pro. So I used like free software like that and user submitted tabs, to learn stuff. And the first few years I was like, obviously fucking terrible, obviously. And then I started doing lessons. And my mom or my dad, I can't remember. Somebody bought me like 3 months of lessons with this guitar teacher in Abbotsford, where I grew up. And now this guy, amazing guitar teacher, not a showy guitarist all the time, although he could do some like shreddy stuff that I was always like, oh my God, how do you do that? But now I'll go back and I'll be like, oh, okay, I get it. Yeah, I get it. Pentatonic stuff. But at this time I was just like, whoa. But that was his style. And I didn't realize that he was such a huge stoner. He just always stoned. I didn't realize that because I was like 12 or 13. I was like 14. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. He's just weird or whatever.
He's just really chill. Yeah.
Yeah. But he was very Christian, as is every single other person that lives in Abbotsford. So he would get us to jam out for like 3 hours, where I would go in and play guitar and then switch a quarter of the way through and play bass and then go back to rhythm guitar and then go back to lead guitar. And he would switch from vocals to drums to guitar and get all of his students involved. And this man taught me how to jam with a band. Even though I hated the music, that didn't matter. I jammed with other musicians, and that was like absolutely invaluable. Like there's no way that I would have some of the skills that I have now without that guy. And I went to him for about 2 years. Stopped going to him because it sort of hit the limit. I wanted to get more into theory. And I did push myself personally to learn some theory. I jammed with some guys. I played in a couple bands. And then I met the dudes I met Spencer, the drummer of Archspire. And that was about 10 years into my guitar playing career, 10 or 11 years. So I learned how to sweep because I met with those guys and I was like trying to get better, all that kind of stuff. A few years go by and I'm getting pretty good, but still want to get, kind of to the next point with composition. And then I started looking more into classical theory. Not that I'm a classically trained musician, but I just started pushing myself to learn more classical theory, some jazz modal usage, try to figure out how modes work together. I had a few friends that taught me some stuff, and that it all kind of finally clicked with some interval. Sorry if I'm going into too much detail.
No, this is great. I love it. I'm sure the viewers are also on pins and needles with this.
Sure. I learned some intervallic theory, which is like the distance between notes, how to build those into chords, and then how to build those into scales, and then what a key signature is and all that kind of stuff. I learned that kind of early on, and the interval stuff stuck with me, and I always thought it kind of had it running in the background. So I was like, this is a minor third, this is a perfect fifth or whatever, and you stack all this stuff up, you get this minor chord or whatever, building different chords. But when I started pushing myself to get more into theory, then I started learning more about chord substitutions and exotic modes and their exotic scales and their modes, Hungarian minor, melodic minor, all that kind of stuff. But really the thing that got me like to the next level of comprehension with guitar theory and being more capable on the guitar was teaching guitar. And teaching guitar, if anyone is watching that doesn't think that they have the skills to teach guitar, but they've been playing for a couple of years, I promise you that you do, and it'll make you such a better guitarist. Not only in the way that you solidify all the stuff that you forgot that you knew, and you're like, oh, but everybody knows what an E minor chord is. It's like, that's not true.
Yeah.
Most people on planet Earth do not know what an E minor chord is. Like, I promise you this knowledge is really important, and it's stuff that you forgot that was even learnable. You're like, oh no, well that's just something you just, I've known that for 10 years or 5 years or 2 years or whatever. That stuff, solidifying that stuff by just like, as gross as it sounds, regurgitating the information, but just putting it out there and seeing somebody else click with it, dude, that's the way to get your guitar ability up. That's it, teaching. and it's scary at first. And sometimes, dude, it's scary every time. Sometimes you'll teach, and every week you'll see the same student, and every week you'll be scared that you're gonna fuck it up. But that's like part of it, dude. That's like playing shows. Like, you probably know, like, every time you go on stage, it gets a little bit less nerve-wracking. You get a little bit less nervous until one day you're not really nervous, but there's still a little bit of that. There's still always a little bit, even if as manly or as, you know, macho as anybody ever wants to sound. Oh, I never get nervous. Like, everybody's a little bit nervous, you know? You can be 95% not nervous, but there's still 5% that's like, what if my guitar amp blows up? What if I break a string? What if I forget a solo? What if they hate us? You know, what if I slip on a banana peel on the stage?
I feel like that's just kind of part of like the musician's condition, right?
Dude, yes.
Is that, you know, even, you know, when, and granted, you know, some of it comes out of humility, but even during this conversation, there was a point where you were like, yeah, you know, I'm pretty good at guitar. Like, I'm not as good as I want to be, kind of thing. Sure. And, you know, some of that comes out of humility, like I said, but I feel like a big part of that comes out of like that just musician's condition of being like, I am not as good as I want to be, and that's what pushes me to move forward. And so that like that same thing kind of gets carried onto stage, where it's just like, oh God, like what if the bad part of my musicianship comes out in front of all these people? And it's just like, it's,
do you get that feeling?
Oh, dude, every show, every single show. I tell people, I'm like, if you're not nervous at all before a show, you should go to a therapist and see when you became a sociopath. Like, it's like, it's one of those things where it's when people are like, yeah, tattoos don't hurt. I'm like, I have a lot, and they all suck. Like, yeah, they do.
Exactly. It's okay to admit it.
Yeah, it's the same kind of thing where it's just like, you know, it's very natural to be like, I'm putting myself on display to, you know, whether it's 1 or 1,000 people, you know what I mean? And what's funny about that is that I actually get more nervous in front of smaller crowds. When we're playing festivals, right? And there's like 60,000 people, some gigantic. It's like the crowd is just an object at that point. Like I can't.
They're an entity.
Yeah, my mind can't comprehend the idea of each one of those people being people, and so it all just kind of blends into this, you know. But when I'm like asked to go do karaoke in a quiet bar in front of 10 strangers, I'm just like, oh my God, I can't handle it.
How about this? Do you ever have that feeling where, so you're on stage and you're not really in the moment, and I feel like I pretty much always am less and less in the moment pretty much every show, which is weird because you should be thinking about, this is great. Instead, you're thinking about, okay, when we pack up tonight, what am I going to eat for dinner? And you're on stage, like you're looking like you're in it, and you're looking at the audience, and you're looking at each other, but you are thinking about where the van is parked,
right?
Because there's a time limit on the parking, or something like that.
Once your performance becomes a part of your muscle memory, which I feel is a little bit more common for instrumentalists than it is for vocalists.
Okay.
But once it becomes a part of your muscle memory, and you can just like autopilot your way through, I feel like those your brain kind of gets to do. It's like shower thoughts, right? Like that's the reason shower thoughts are like that, is because
what are shower thoughts?
Shower thoughts are like, a lot of times people have these like revelations while they're in the shower, or like they have kind of like, you know, these kind of just like you're just in a place of higher cognitive function, right? And the reason for that is because your body is just 100% on autopilot. Like, you're not thinking about anything that you're doing, so your brain can kind of like spin its own wheels and do its own thing. I feel like on stage, that's the thing. One of my moderators, Mr. Ryan Williams
Hi, Ryan Williams.
Yes, he just said you've got to read the inner game of music. It's all about shutting off the voice asking about the van while you are playing, but yes, no thinking. And I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I should. That sounds like a fun read. But I totally feel you.
The thing that you said about shower thoughts is interesting too, because you know that lately, I don't know if this is too fucking dumb. I don't know. Maybe this is too like fucking something.
Well, now you've ramped it up, so you got to just go for it.
Lately, I've been trying, in the last couple of years, I really haven't been listening to very much music.
Right.
And this is what you get when you're a professional musician, when you do music all the time. It's like you just don't
go through burnout periods. It happens.
Yeah, that's it. So a couple years, 3 years, whatever, you're playing music all the time, you're writing music all the time, but I'm not going home and putting on, whatever band to relax. I'm like, no, I don't want to listen to music. So I'll put on podcasts.
Yeah.
I listen to a lot of podcasts. Recently, I've been thinking, I put on podcasts whenever I'm doing anything, or YouTube videos or whatever of people talking. And I'm finding now that what I thought was good for my brain, and I'm sorry that I'm undercutting exactly what we're doing here, but listening to conversations that you're not involved in is just taking away from the ability to have those shower thoughts, like you're saying, where you have that revelation because your brain is just able to just be by itself.
Right. The thing is,
that
though,
stuff is important, man.
It totally is, and you should give yourself those quiet times. I feel like the reason a lot of people have like anxiety before bed is because that's the only time that they give themselves, and it just floods in like everything from you're just like, oh my god, lying staring at the ceiling kind of thing. But what's cool about the podcasting thing, and I feel like music can provide this as well, is that if you're actively listening, if it's not something that's just kind of like background noise, most entertaining podcasts are filled with good information. And if you take that information and like do something with it, right? Like if you take that information and let it contribute to those passive thoughts and those quiet times, then I think that they can be very beneficial. Like I'm a huge fan of Hardcore History by Dan Carlin.
Oh,
right?
yeah, me too.
Great podcast. And the reason I love it so much is because it gives me so much fuel to just like think about stuff. And sometimes I'll find myself like listening to him on like a long drive and then tuning out an hour or two in and just like thinking about something that he said, and then my brain kind of takes over. So sometimes it can be more of like a kickstart than a takeaway. But I do definitely feel that it's like I can only listen to people talk about the same 10 serial killers so many times before I'm just like, this is asinine. So yeah, I absolutely feel you. Well, that's getting back to guitar. That's really that's a very interesting journey. I feel like everyone's is kind of different, but I really like what you said about teaching, coming from the point of view of having taught a lot myself as a vocalist, is that it's like it really does force you to stay on top of your craft. A lot of people fall into practice routines and then don't push themselves. And if you're teaching, even if you're going back to the basics, which is something you should be doing anyway, but even if you're just going back to the basics and teaching like beginning level students, it kind of forces you to just like really stay on top of your craft and keep everything really fresh in your mind. And that kind of doesn't force you, but I feel like it gives you the incentive to just continue pushing yourself on the other end of things, like where you're at with your experience. So
there's a couple things that I've actually done in lessons where we'll be talking about something. Let's say it's a lesson about theory and we're talking about chord construction, and I'll play 2 chords I've never played before, and I'll be like, that sounds pretty cool. And those have made it into Archspire songs and some of my favorite parts. So teaching has led to composition. And I mean, I think the biggest problem that people have, and you probably, I don't know if you feel this, I imagine you probably do, is that at some point you feel like you said before, someone's going to find you out, that you're not as good of a musician as you lead on. And that's just not the case, I mean, I don't know if this is a really cynical view of the world, but I feel like even when I'm on stage, I might be playing guitar and I might have missed a note or whatever, or a bunch oftentimes. And when I do that, I used to go like, fuck, I'm blowing it. People can tell I'm blowing it. And then those will be invariably the shows that people come up to you and say, you played perfect. I cannot believe anybody could play that perfect. And so you're like, yeah, but didn't you see that solo that I like played on the wrong string, dude? Like, no, because people, and this is just how subjective music is. It's a subjective experience for the person that's there, and it means something different to everybody. And when they're watching you play, maybe they're not thinking about you. They're thinking about how they want to be you, do the same thing that you're doing. They want to think about how they can relate to you. Maybe they're thinking about maybe they're thinking about how cool they look in the mosh pit. Maybe they're taking a picture of themselves in the, maybe they're thinking about where they park their car. Like it's subjective, and it doesn't matter what you think about the music that you're putting out there, because it really is like it's everyone else's. When they hear it, it's theirs.
Yeah.
And it's so cool about music. There's no objectively like right or wrong things, as much as people might want to tell you in classical music, you can't do this, or, this scale goes ascending, descending differently. It's like, well, no, because Bach, the best composer ever, you know what I mean? He broke every rule,
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
it's like, man, it's really cool how music can just be digested so differently from person to person. And yeah, that's sort of getting found out that, like, okay, here's a good one. I can't read sheet music very well. I suck at it.
Yeah.
Do I think that somebody's going to find that out and think that I suck at music? I used to. Now I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, well, I don't do that. So whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, like, what am I going to do? Go learn it right now? It's like, I have other stuff I want to do. You know what I mean? It's like, why am I beholden to somebody else and no one has ever told me to do that. So,
right.
I mean, it's just, you get stuck in your own brain.
Yeah.
Right?
That going back to it, that same musician's condition. And it's funny that you mentioned the being on stage and fucking up thing, because, that is a thing that I feel like every musician deals with. And that phenomenon that you explained of like the shows where I feel like I played the worst are oftentimes the shows where people will come up to me more than usually and be like, that was so sick. Oh my God, all this kind of stuff. And I've had this discussion with a few people, and some people have been like, oh, well, rose-colored glasses kind of thing. And I'm just like, I don't think that's what it is. I think that what it is that it's, there's a human connection that happens, right? Because death metal, especially extreme metal, technical death metal, can be very robotic, right? And if you're playing everything note for note, super perfect, like there is, like, the listener kind of falls into this, like, okay, like this is just like the album that I've listened to 500 times, like And when you make those mistakes, or when you make those slight changes in those things, it pulls them out of that, and it becomes a human experience instead of just like this autopilot kind of viewership, much like we're sometimes in autopilot on stage. Like, it creates that bond, and I feel like when that happens on accident because you messed up, or because you played the wrong note, or because you sang the wrong lyric, or whatever, you kind of like going back and forth, it's like a happy accident kind of thing, because people that bond gets created because people are kind of like pulled out of it, being like, oh, that something different happened. I'm gonna go tell them how great that was. Meanwhile, we're up there like, this is terrible.
Here's a very good example of that, and this is the only thing I remember from this show. But in 2003 or 2004, I saw Opeth play in Vancouver, and they played with Gene Hogland on drums. Because he was filling in between drum changeovers or whatever. And this was the first tour that they had ever done with him. And they were playing Ghost of Perdition. Ooh. So it was right when Ghost Reveries came out. And I'm a big Opeth fan. I have been since, So that album came out. I was listening to it every single day. And I idolized Michael from Opeth. I'm like, dude, that guy is like amazing singer, amazing guitarist, writes amazing music. It's just, So I saw them play at that show. Me and my buddy were there. And I remember there was one moment. I don't remember anything else about the show except for a moment where Gene Hoglan played the wrong part, and Michael put up his hand to signal that the part that he was playing was the next repetition, not this one. I remember that, and that alone. That's all I remember, because I thought that was so amazing. I was like, they're communicating without even talking. This is like 2 or 3, 4 years into me playing guitar. I don't know anything about guitar except for that I can play the first chords of Drapery Falls, and I'm all excited about it. I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool sounding. And I saw that moment. I'm like, that's fucking so cool. And like I said, that's all I remember. That's it. Yeah. It's just such a cool moment between two like amazing musicians, right?
Yeah. And it's like I said, it's that human experience. You get to see that they stop being icons on a stage and start being people in that like brief moment. And that's why it sticks, in my opinion.
Very cool.
Well, I've kept you for a very long time. I could probably keep talking to you for another full hour about stuff. Because I just like you that much, Dean.
Thanks, buddy.
But if there's anything before we go that you want to mention, I know that you have, a few a few sponsors, gear, social channels, anything that you want to plug before we take off for our viewers on the Metal Blade properties to find you, follow you, any of that good stuff.
You can check me out on Instagram at Dean_Lamb_. You can go subscribe to my YouTube channel where I do a weekly live stream there. I'm starting to do that now. I was streaming for a while and then I stopped, and now I'm back doing a weekly Wednesday night live stream on my YouTube channel. And then also we're doing bi-weekly 4 Levels of Death Metal episodes where we have on awesome guests, and I'm very excited to show you guys what we got going on soon. So that's about it.
Awesome. Well,
plus I play in a band that has a new album coming up at some point, but whatever.
Yeah, that's whatever.
Something.
For those of you over in Europe, you might be able to see me and Dean have some of these exact same conversations together on the Rising Merch Faces of Death tour this November, December. So
yeah,
who knows? Archspire, Rivers of Nile, Legion, bunch of other friends. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Well, it was awesome having you, man, and thank you so much for joining us. To the viewers, as always, thank you for tuning in, checking out the show. This is the Metal Blade Live series. I'm your host, Riley McShane, with Dean Lamb of Archspire, and I will see you all next week.
Goodbye.